Hi, everyone. Welcome to our presentation of Sitecore XM Cloud Forms. So Kamruz and Mike will demo as well as present on this topic. Take it away, guys.
Hey, thank you, Akshay. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. So we're going to be introducing to you Sitecore XM Cloud Forms. This was released like just a few weeks ago. It's so we'll go through the topic, kind of explain what it is, give you a bit of a introduction to it, and give you a little bit of a demo around the new forms builder. So my name is Kamruz Jaman. A lot of you will know me from Twitter and socials as JammyCam. I'm a 12-time Sitecore MVP, and I've been working with Sitecore since the end of 2009. And I started working on Sitecore since version 6.0.
My name is Mike Reynolds. I am known as the Sitecore junkie in the community. I am a 10-year Sitecore MVP, and I started working on Sitecore 17 years ago on version 5.2, and I've worked on every version ever since.
I hadn't even heard of Sitecore at that point, Mike. So you're one of the best of our industry. I don't think I even knew what a CMS was, to be honest with you, at that point. But here we are.
But you learn quickly. All right, so this is what we're gonna jump into this, and we're gonna talk about the history of forms and the Sitecore ecosystem and layout as it existed over iterations of many years, and also talk about this new product that we're featuring here, XM Cloud Forms, and why you'd want to use it, key features and benefits that come with it, and Kamruz is gonna give us a nice deep dive in a demo and future enhancements that are in store for us.
Perfect.
All right, so here's a timeline that we came up with, but I think what's missing here is a prehistoric view. Before 2009, people were rolling their own forms, and you were storing things in, like, let's say, custom databases, or maybe you were being creative and put them into Sitecore's items or wherever. Maybe people were putting them in text files. I hope not. But anyway, Sitecore came up with, they listened to the community and said, hey, people wanted the ability to create forms without needing a developer to do it. So they came up with web forms for marketers. Basically a form builder that allows non-technical people to put forms together without needing a developer. In asterisks, that almost worked, kind of, but kind of not. Anyways, MVC support came out in 2014 because the world started to move into an MVC paradigm. And then lots of bells and whistles, lots of additions. Eventually, people wanted more, so Sitecore came up with a new product called Experience Forms, completely a rebuilt solution using MVC, and it was built into XP. Later on, as the world moved to headless, people wanted the ability to do this in React and other places like that, other front-end frameworks, so Sitecore came out with JSS React Forms. Today, we now have XM Cloud Forms.
So, of course, we presented on this, right, Mike?
We did, yeah. 2018, we were in Germany. We were up on a stage in front of 600 people. You know, we were up there, couldn't see anything. The lights were dark, but we were up there showing Experience Forms.
And that was a pretty deep dive. And I know when we were discussing about this earlier, I reminded you that you pushed me. I don't want to say bully, but you did push me into presenting a very deep dive into web forms for marketers. It was actually Michael West had been asking for some information on it because it was not very well documented, and the way to extend, enhance, etc. wasn't. There's barely any documentation. I know you have extensively blogged on web forms for marketers. I learned a lot from you actually on creating those custom submit actions and things like that. But yeah, I think that totally slipped your mind that you had made me present that, and you joined that presentation.
I did forget all about that, and I started to remember it after we discussed this, and I'm like, oh yeah, I did do that. Michael, if you're on here, I actually coaxed him to do it because I didn't want to present. But anyways.
Yeah. And I think as each of these versions went on, the documentation obviously did get a little bit better. And I know when we had presented on the experience forms, we had discussed the fact that it was the very first release. People were comparing web forms for marketers to, or what was the very last version of web forms for marketers to the very first release of experience forms. And we're talking about, well, they don't have this and they don't have that, and this is missing and that is missing. And we had talked about the fact it was the very first release at that point, right?
I mean, to be fair, at the time, web forms for marketers had been around since 2009. We did this in 2018. Forms came out in 2017, 2018? And it's just like, okay, multiple years had elapsed. Of course, there were lots more features, and Experience Forms was a brand new product. It wasn't going to have all the bells and whistles that web forms for marketers had. It would have taken too long to, roll that out.
Yeah. And certainly it was a great improvement, especially on the user interface and the development of that. So, I mean, you'd obviously mentioned that the prehistoric view. So, why do the forms matter? Why do authors want these things?
At the end of the day, it's because they want the ability and the empowerment to build forms without a developer. Why? Because developers are busy. We have to build lots of different things. Things have to be prioritized. There's competing priorities. They want to roll things out quickly. Just think of like systems out there like, what is it? SurveyMonkey. You can just build a form really quickly and just put out a survey, drag and drop, do all kinds of crazy stuff. If you need to rely on a developer to do everything, you'll never get your form out there, and you might get, let's say, left behind because somebody else is going to release something. So it's all about empowering content authors to build these forms without a software engineer, developer, or an architect or somebody technical. They also can make changes on the fly without having a developer make those changes for them. For instance, I want to change a label on a form. I should be able to do that without a developer. Also, you can have this integrate with multiple different systems. We're going to go into this a little bit using webhooks and show that, but you can have it integrate with disparate systems and have things happen, without a developer doing it for you. And likewise, you want to be able to throw your form out there quickly because you might want to get more leads. You might want to find more customers, or you want to open up channels for customers to talk to you. And you want to do that really fast so that you don't lose those customers to competitors.
Yeah, absolutely. And I recall, like on some of my earlier projects, Sitecore and non-Sitecore projects, are deployment practices, shall I say, were not as mature as they are now. So making a change and getting that deployed into production would often take several weeks. I know, obviously, with automated DevOps tools and things like that most people have these days, it can be much, much quicker, but it still does involve,
the change management processes and approvals and QA rounds and all these different things that, yes, it might be faster, but still you're going to be stymied. You want to get that thing out like right now.
Yeah.
You don't want to wait like to the end of the week or the end of the sprint or whatever. You want that out immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I have to say that of every single Sitecore project that I've ever worked on, this is a module in web forms and marketers or experience form. This is a module that every single one of them has used without fail. They always want this, and it's always included on every single project.
Right. Yeah. Forms are important. Yeah. So we're going to talk about XM Cloud Forms.
So I have added a link to the documentation down here. There is some user documentation available on this already. They are pretty quick with getting these documentation out these days. It is just a user documentation at this point, but it's take a look through it, and we'll obviously give you a demo.
What is this QR code on that screen, Cam?
It's just a URL.
Is that real?
The link to.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same URL. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So XM Cloud Forms is a SaaS-based product built into XM Cloud. That means Sitecore manages it. You'll get the latest and greatest when Sitecore releases that stuff. You don't have to upgrade anything. It's so easy. Everything's on the cloud, so that you just integrate it into your cloud-based solutions. It's composable, so that means you can integrate it into different disparate systems. And it's definitely all driven by a headless paradigm, so it's all API driven, which is great. Low code, no code. Basically, what I've seen so far, you don't need to write any code, but maybe there would be a case where you have to do some. But for, I would say 9 times out of 10, you probably don't have to write anything. And honestly, like I just mentioned, since it's SaaS, you're going to get the latest and greatest from Sitecore. They control the whole thing. You just have to go use it and have fun.
Yeah, and we've seen with XM Cloud already that Sitecore is constantly releasing updates and enhancements to that system. They've already stated they're going to be doing the same with XM Cloud Forms. We'll talk later about some things that we think would be nice to have in here, and something that potentially are missing right now. But again, given that it is a cloud SaaS system, I don't expect those things to be sitting there. Unlike Experience Forms, where we were waiting basically a year before the next release for the most part, and those other modules, we don't have those issues with upgrades and or even just the upgrades itself, right? With Experience Forms, if they release the module, you've got to go through the entire upgrade system across your dev, test, production, go through all the QA. You don't have any of that, right? This is the beauty of SaaS and composable.
Yeah, you get the latest and greatest immediately. Once it's released, you have it. It's going to be 100% tested already, hopefully, and then you just go have fun with it.
Yeah. And even if there is bugs, the great thing is, of course, those things can be fixed very, very quickly by Sitecore and rolled out without you having to do anything about it.
Right. All right, so we're going to take a look at this in a demo, but I can attest that there is a very slick form designer builder. We can just drag form fields right onto a canvas, change labels, do all kinds of stuff. There's multiple ways of putting your forms together. We'll go into a little bit more detail like a little bit, but you can easily test this in different device views, different viewports, like a tablet or a mobile device, or you can see it on a desktop, or maybe even like a big service. I don't know. But there's lots of this. It's easy ability to do that. There's buttons on the canvas where you can view it and see things like that. You can also just hook so there's no more submit actions. Everything's through a webhook. So you can have your data post somewhere else, different system. Maybe you can have it post to Sitecore Connect or something like that, and just have that handle it. You don't have to worry about building those things anymore. Because I remember in Experience Forms, that's the only thing I worried about was building the submit action that had to integrate with different systems. And, that could be hard if you didn't know what you were doing. This is a standalone product. It is not integrated with Sitecore 100% per se. It is its own contained form builder and form solution. It is completely different than Sitecore Experience Forms or any things that came out with Sitecore like that. It is its own standalone product, and definitely easy embedding onto web pages.
Yeah, I can't believe this. You're saying there's no more submit actions, Mike, because that was like 95% of the work I used to do.
What am I going to do?
Exactly, right? What are we going to do now?
I know. So I have time to go to the movies. So this product comes with a bunch of pre-canned field types or form fields. You can just take them, drag them right onto your canvas, and just build a form. I saw different things like date fields. I thought like drop downs. I saw like things for integers, numbers, just radio button lists, things like that. You can also set validation on these fields, and it's very easy to set that. Change the labels of your form fields very easily. And also there's a recapture field, so you can prevent robots like me from filling out your forms. And also, definitely, this is something that probably should come with lots of forms, is a way to lay out your form. So you can have different columns, forms, and things like that. You don't have to worry about setting CSS classes or anything. This is already done for you. You just drag it onto your canvas and start putting form fields into different boxes. Very simple.
Yeah, and I remember with Experience Forms, the form builder over there was much more flexible than we had in web forms and marketers.
Right.
But you had to start going in and knowing bootstrap classes and things like that, right, to get your 50-50 widths and 1/3, 2/3 widths and so on and so forth. So this one seems much more intuitive, right?
Even as a developer, I struggle with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And definitely you can see things in different like viewports, different screen sizes. It's very responsive. You can have it work on a mobile device or a tablet or your desktop or a little tiny laptop screen that I have in front of me. It's responsive. And this is my favorite feature of any form builder is multi-pages, or AKA wizard form. So you can have different pages of form elements. So you can step users through, let's say, multiple pages of form stuff. Let's say you have 5 pages of stuff. You don't want to put everything on one big screen because they'll be scrolling forever and probably fall asleep while scrolling. You want to have them step through it. So you can group things together and have them be kind of like together, make it easy and digestible. And then, as most form builders, at least this one, definitely, you have pre-canned form templates you can use. You can create your own, but these give you the ability to start with something. It's just like here's something out of the box. I can actually put it onto a page and start changing things, so I don't have to go reinvent the entire wheel and just start using it. And some people need that as a starter point because they don't know what fields they want. They know they want something similar to what's already there, and they just use that as a baseline.
Yeah, it's great for also branding, right? So keeping your brand on theme, on target, and making sure that you have brand consistency across your forms. And if you again just very allows you to very very quickly just set up a new form, change a few little bits that you need to for this specific use case, and just get it up and running.
Right. And webhooks, so no more submit actions. You're just posting to an API somewhere else. And that's all through webhooks interfaces and things like that. It's basically just a URL. You're posting to a URL, and that for that system that you're posting to will handle everything. And you have the ability to put it behind authentication so that you won't have any hackers stealing your stuff. You don't have to worry about storing sensitive information. Another system's going to do that, and somebody else probably already made that ironclad and it's ready to go. You don't have to worry about doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, we were, especially when we had the forms, we were always worrying about the data you're storing on your own systems, security around that, the PII implications of that, and depending on which country you're in, which location you're in, which state even you're in, right? That has different legal implications around people's right to access that information and for you to give them that information. I mean, there will still be those concerns here, but you are not storing it on your servers, and you're not having to worry about all the encryptions and the ability for that data to potentially get hacked, for example.
I remember, at least for web forms marketers and experience forms, I wrote code to encrypt data to store it into the database. Well, I don't have to do that with this. I mean, I enjoyed writing that code, except, you have to worry about what if somebody can crack your encryption algorithm. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about that with this.
But do you remember on web forms for marketers, there was a credit card field?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I do remember that. And that was stored in plain text in the database.
Yeah. Yeah. Hacker's dream, right? Hacker's dream.
Exactly. That's a trip down memory lane.
Yeah.
And you have the concept of pages, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's just a page and you're dropping a form into it.
Yeah, super simple, right? Super easy for anyone to just throw that in there. I was surprised at how easy this was.
Yeah. All right, let's crack this thing open and take a look.
Take a look. Let's do it. All right. So here's an instance of XM Cloud. First things first, there's a new, on the new instances, you'll see the Forms button. Surprisingly, this was pretty much exactly where the Forms button was on the on-prem XMXP, so it should be that unfamiliar for you all. But that will take us to this new Forms Builder application. You'll see it is a separate application, forms.sitecorecloud.io. It is, as Mike mentioned, it's not tied to your XMXP instance like the old Experience Forms was. It is a separate standalone application. Really, really intuitive. We're able to just go in without really having to read the docs, obviously, but just go in and start playing with this, start creating these forms. Straight off the bat, Form Builder, as Mike mentioned, there's the layout sections on the left. You can start pulling those sections into the, start adding those onto the form. There you go. And then you can, again, just build up your form as you need it and start adding in whatever sections of content and things like that that you however you want to build up your form. As Mike mentioned, there's a number of out-of-the-box field types in here, and again, you can just start dragging and dropping those in here, or you also have the ability to add to click the add button, and then from that you can start to also add the fields in that way. Number of different field types in here. Mike mentioned a few of the special ones. There you go. There's that date one that you had mentioned, Mike. Set that in here, and then let's grab an email one in here. Right. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Click on those. It gives us an entire properties thing. I can set a name for the field. I can update the labels. There is some placeholder text you can update. And you'll see that it's very, very quick, right? I can see all of that information is just being displayed straight away. I'm able to preview exactly what I'm building without having to hit any saves, without having to hit any refreshes. Yeah, very simple. I'll do some of these, but there are a number of options here. You can set like pre-field values, like essentially default values. You can make fields hidden, make some of these required. And again, as you can see, as I hit required, it's populating those up very, very quickly. I can set character limits. So I can also update field styles individually. So I can update the field styles in terms of background colors, borders, fonts, font sizes, font styles. Same thing for the labels. I can show the labels. I can hide the labels. Update the placeholder text. Same with the help text. I can do that individually. You've also got this apply to all, which will, as you see, it just applied. It just hit all of them. Pretty useful when you want to make quite generic form style changes. Like if I want to make the label, update the styles of the labels, and I want to do that for all the labels, I don't want to go and do those individually. It's very, very quick to go and do that. Mike also mentioned that there are some basic UI elements in here as well. So I can go in and start to add in some my text. I can go here and that. I can update the styling on that. I can update the font colors on that. I can add multiple of these, and then I can set that in there. Pretty neat. And then we can add those other special things in here, like the recapture. That gives me a basic form, very, very quickly set up. Very, very flexible in its design and its layouts, different column widths, different column sizes. We can go and then add another page in terms of a multi-page setup. You'll notice that that submit button that had been added up here, probably not the best place for it, we'll move that down here, has now become an X button, and then let's move those down here. This way of setting up the multi-page was really, I really like this, right? It's taken my first page, pre-templated it for me, and just created almost a duplicate with the placeholders and everything in there. I was pleasantly surprised by this and how easy it was. But yeah, we'll take it. We can individually, obviously, control these. We can remove what we don't need in there. And then we can start to add our fields back in. Again, a couple of different options. We can go in and add the fields, click on the field type. This gives me another set of fields, and then we can add that in there. Again, this gives me different options for different types of fields, different selections of fields. Box group, right? And let's just remove that as an example. There you go. So that's quickly set me up a multi-page field in here. So I've got a couple of select field types in here. Again, I can go in, change all the styling, change all the labels. I can make them required or not required. And then I have the option to, then have the ability to add selections to these, right? And you will notice that I can only add static lists here. In experience forms and web forms and marketers, when I had these multi-list type things, I had the ability to either set them statically or to go and select a data source location from within Sitecore. We don't have the ability to do that here. It is a separate standalone list. And the reason is this is a composable solution. It's a standalone solution. If they start to make things integrated with Sitecore through data sources and so on and so forth, it defeats the purpose of it being a composable solution. I can't just, it's hardwired and tied into Sitecore if we do that. So they're standalone. Again, each field can have different options, different selections, different requirements that you as you need. And then we can add as many of those multi-pages as we need. I think I do need a submit action on here somewhere. I've lost my next page on here, but so a number of different fields, a number of different options that are available. It's very, very easy to create these. I have an error here. It is quite intuitive in what it's doing in terms of where it's adding the next buttons for the pages. No, it's adding it up here. Where it's adding those buttons and things like that. And it's quite intuitive in showing you when you have issues on the form. If I try and, so I'm getting an error here, and it's showing me a warning that the recapture field should always be on the last page, which makes sense, right? I don't want to recapture on the very first page of a multi-page form, particularly given that it will then just essentially expire, right? And the user won't be able to submit that recapture at that point. Let's go back there and add that recapture in here. We can add a long text field in here. Let's remove some of these. Let's clean this up a little bit. Oh, I removed too much. Let's just remove all of that. Again, we have the ability to add character limits and things like that. I do know that there's a limit of 2,000 characters for the long text field. Did I fix that? Action button is missing. No, I need an action button. Up here. Okay, there you go. So So I can then save and exit that, and my form is now available on the list that I've just created. Pretty neat, right? Very, very quick to do. We can add multiple labels. I already have a label set up. And I can create new ones if labels do not exist. And that makes it quite nice to be able to then start filtering my list of forms by the different labels, or you can also filter it by status and by name as well. Now, these are all inactive and in draft mode at this moment, so they're not available to use right now. But I did want to, before I do that, I just want to just show you that. Let me take this one. I did want to show you the ability for the template library. So we have this template library. There's 5 out-of-the-box templates available, sample templates available. I do have the ability to add favorites and save ones myself, but these are the 5 public templates that are available. I think it would be, I can preview the templates to see, give it a quick look at what it looks like. So it gives just the ability to preview those in the different modes, and I can obviously just use that template, and that gives me straight off the bat a way of creating a template using one of those predefined templates. I can still go in and update this layout. I can still go in and add additional fields or text or whatever I need in here. That's not a big problem, but it gives me that really quick starting point to work from. What I can do, which is quite neat, is this template that I've just designed very badly, but I've designed nonetheless. I can actually go and save that as a template, and let's pull that. Template. Give that a second. Let me save that. Template has been saved. Now let's go and create a new demo form. Go back to the template library. Go back to the all templates, not the public ones. And this is a demo that I had. This is the template that I had created a little bit earlier, right? Let's close that. Let's just use this template. I have a brand new template created from the original one. I can obviously make whatever updates I want. I can add, remove fields to this. I can go and add additional fields to that. Not a problem. Super easy, super quick. Once I've got the branding assigned to this, it gives me a very consistent look and feel to everything. Easily spin up new templates for whichever landing pages, sign up pages that I need. Just want to also just call out this styling section. So we saw the field styling earlier. This gives me form styling. So this is for the entire form. So I can set like the width of the form, borders of the form, backgrounds of the form, including the ability to add background images. I can select files from local. Obviously have a local recent one here. Direct links from the website. Nice little integration into Unsplash. Give you some royalty-free images in here. Giphy, who doesn't love some Giphy? I'm not sure it's always going to be relevant for the business forms and the lead collection forms, but we love Giphy nonetheless. And you can also hook those up into Facebook, Google Drive, Dropbox, Instagram, OneDrive as well. So if you have, your existing media assets in some of those, you can at least hook those up and select it from there without having to browse from those locally. Again, no integration into the Sitecore media library. And again, for the same reason, it's a composable product. You don't want to have those hard ties back into the XMXB system. And then you also don't want to worry about, I published this form, are those items in Sitecore also published? Whether that's the media library items or data source items for fields and things like that. So this is a correct approach. It's different from what we've been used to, but in my opinion, this is a correct approach for a composable form builder application. So there's a number of different things in here. Check those out. It will give you some nice consistency across your forms. You want to set like the default fonts and things like that. Set it here. That will then sort of be inherited by all the form fields and things like that. Including things like button colors and things like that. One thing I did notice is you have to set these first. So if I change the button colors here, for example, that's garish. It doesn't apply to the forms until I add them on. And in this case, I have to remove it and then add it back in. There again, but it's now following that styling. So if you set the styling first, save it as a template, that will then give you some more brand consistency. There's also the ability to add your social media links. There is a component in here, under the basic one, I think, called social media. So again, add those in, and then that will give you the links and things for those social media and things like that in there already. There's also validation messages if you want to edit those. It's very generic in terms of the messages. You don't have a per field validation, but you can have you can override the validators and things like that. Another nice thing within this builder as well is there isn't a workflow, but you can go in and add comments. You can select the form. So there's some UI issues up here. I don't know what's going on. Just edit this again. Try and get rid of that bugginess. Yeah, so the commenting. So if you hit the comments, you can go in. This gives you a new commenting field. So you can update. You can add comments on the different fields. It then gives the list. Options, and that builds up the list of items, and then somebody can come in and then fix those, and then you have the resolved and the unresolved tickets, and then you can obviously add tickets individually, comments individually or within groups, and gives you a nice way of having that workflow without having to do a huge workflow implementation on those. Forms are responsive, so we can. So you go back. So when I'm editing, I've got a desktop view and a mobile view. I've also got this preview view as well. I enter some data, but that'll give me a mobile view, tablet view, desktop view. Very, very quick, very easy. I've got all my history of the different versions of this that I have, and the ability to look at some of the settings. Come back to this webhooks in a second, but the submit actions, again, as Mike said, there are none pretty much. You've got two, which is redirect to a URL, again, a hard-coded URL, not something that you select from within Sitecore itself, and a success message, which you can and show success message. You can obviously edit that, and that will then show a success message in place if you don't want to redirect to a separate thank you page or something like that. Obviously, if you are selecting a redirect to a URL, you can set whatever URL you want with whatever parameters you want. So if you have like UTM codes and things like that, you can add that into that redirect URL and send that over to a thank you page, so you know that that form has been completed. The submit actions are now webhooks. So you can go ahead and manage webhooks and add as many webhooks as you like. You have authentication. You can set different types of authentication. I'm going to show you a quick one for this one. I'll probably pick up a demo. So you can, for demo purposes and for testing purposes, you can check this site out called webhook.site. It will just give you a unique URL, and you can post your forms to this for testing purposes. So go and set like this, define this one. Select webhook, click down that one, close this one. That then brings me my demo webhook, and I can save and exit that. Probably should have demoed it. I will demo this webhook. Okay, this is going to be an easy one to demo. So I don't have a webhook on this one. So if I try to submit this one, it's going to tell me that I don't have a demo webhooks. I try to preview this one, it's going to tell me I don't have a webhook set up, so I can go ahead and do that. Select that demo one that I just did. So let's go back to preview. I'm so used to hitting save that it's becoming a little bit weird. So, all right, so I've got a name, I've got a email address, I've got a thing, so I could submit that. It tells me what it's going to be submitted, what it's going to submit, the payload is going to send, where it's going to send it to, and the headers it's going to add. I'm going to hit submit. This has submitted. It's like a thank you setup. Now, if I go to this webhook.site, you can see I've just had a post come in, and you can see the data that it just submitted. Really, really easy, really quick to set up. Oh, that's not an email address. Keyboard layout. There you go. Set that, submit that. There you go, send. And look, there's another one that's just coming. Super easy, super simple. Now with the webhooks, let me show you this little nice little demo that I set up. So as Mike mentioned, with the webhooks, with the submit actions, I think we spent like 95% of our time just working with creating custom submit actions and pushing that out to different systems, whether that's email, whether that's a Salesforce, whether that's to some other custom application, some other database, etc. That was, I think, the majority of the work that we used to do. Now, the neat thing about webhooks is you just push it to somewhere else, an integration platform, and it's then the responsibility of that integration platform to handle that data. As part of our presentation for SubCon in Berlin, we had created a webhook save action which posted into Slack. So in honor of that old presentation, I did want to just go ahead and show that I built that, essentially that same integration, but with absolutely zero code. Go ahead and say that I'm not a robot. And in this case, I've got a webhook into Zapier. I'm going to submit that. It's submitted. The success message shows here. Rather annoyingly, it does show at the end of the form, and it doesn't hide the existing form and then just show the message. I think that's an improvement that could be made. Now, if we head on over to Slack, you can see I've just posted that message using my custom integration. Again, zero code, exact same way exact same thing we had posted in Berlin, but zero code. And this integration from a forms perspective, I have a webhook set up to point to Zapier. In Zapier, I have this webhook with just two events. I've got a trigger event which captures, which is that webhook URL that I added in forms. And all it's doing here is it's just capturing the event, and then it's then going and posting that into Slack. and I've got a payload, and I've formatted that payload using the fields that have come through from my Sitecore Forms integration, webhook integration. The fields on my form. These names do matter, so when you are setting those up, make sure that you name those form fields nicely and neatly. Again, if you do this using a template, the form fields will be the same name every single time. So that's using this field here. And then it's just posting that off to Slack, to another API that we have set up in Slack. This integration platform can be anything. It could be, I use Zapier here. People use IFTTT, if this, then that. A very, very old and well-known integration platform. And of course, Sitecore Connect. We did a presentation on this several months ago. So if you're using Sitecore Connect, then that's another option. And then maybe in the future, Sitecore will be adding some recipes for connection between these. Again, with these integration platforms, you can do as many actions as you like. So I post it to Slack. I can send an email. Again, the good thing about these integration platforms is they already have a bunch of integrations. I don't have to write any code. I can go and post it into Salesforce, HubSpot, Marketo, whatever those things are. You can go and make those integrations happen without having to do things do things manually and in code. We're getting close to time, but last thing, you can obviously then you go ahead and use these in Sitecore on Sitecore XM pages, XM Cloud pages. Just be sure that when you do this, you have to go and save and activate your form. Once you have activated a form, you cannot edit that form again. I don't know the reasoning for this, but you cannot edit that form. It's activated. You can't delete it. I can duplicate it. I can create templates from it, but I can't delete it. I can't deactivate it. But to add this to your website, so I did have this preloaded, but I will just refresh it so I have the component list. Once a form is active, there's a forms section will appear here. Notice that you get the nice little thumbnail auto-generated, and then you didn't have to do anything. You can just drag that in, find a placeholder, essentially, wait for it, and it's loaded. Simple as that, right? I didn't have to do anything more than that. It picked up the XM Cloud and Pages in this particular instance picked up the fact that we're integrated with forms. We have an active form available, and it's ready. I'll see how quickly it can publish. But any thoughts on that, Mike, before we get into the next set of slides?
Well, let's say somebody wanted to make a change. What do they do?
At this moment in time, nothing, unfortunately. You would have to just duplicate this form and then go ahead and swap it out.
Right.
So this is
pretty slick, pretty
easy,
yeah.
Pretty quick. This may take 30 seconds or so before it shows up. So we're not gonna wait. It will eventually show up, but it's usually I've been seeing this within a minute or so. Oh, there you go. As quick as that, right? So this is now in production. I can okay. That in. Submit that. Forms been successfully submitted. And again, we can check out into. I bet it's not active, but that will appear in there in a second as well. Simple as that.
All right, future enhancements. What's coming. Right now, it doesn't support multilingual. That's on the roadmap, hopefully coming. Also, conditional logic. So, let's say somebody selects something here, show different form fields based on what they selected or something like that. Some kind of conditional, like if else, whatever. to make the form do something different depending on what was selected before. Right now, all of the form fields that we looked at are out of the box. There was a little custom section, but there's nothing under it. Hopefully, something is coming so you can build your own custom fields. It should be interesting on how that's going to work since this is a SaaS product. I'm not sure how they're going to do that. Maybe it'll be some kind of JavaScript sort of thing. I don't know. Some analytics. Right now, there's no analytics on the fields or forms. That was with experience forms and web forms markets. I can't remember if it has something like that. But anyways, that's coming with this. Keep in mind, this is brand new. Everything, they're still, Sitecore's still working on it. More revisions will come, more versions. So you definitely can expect analytics to come with this thing because it had come with previous form builders. And then JS embed codes, so you can embed this on pages in other places. Maybe that will come. That'd be nice for it to come.
Yeah, there was some mention of this within some documentation that I saw. If you've used things like Marketo Forms or MailChimp and things like that, they usually have this like JavaScript snippet that you can drop in there. So I think that maybe something is going to come, and maybe this is what it's doing in the background anyway through pages. So I did see mention of that. So I think something might be coming with this.
Yeah, that sounds like the next step.
Yeah.
This is things that we would love to see. Wish list. I hope somebody's listening. Yeah, as we mentioned, you can't change a form once it's activated. Once it's active, that's it. You're stuck with it. You have to duplicate the form and make the changes on the new duplicated version of that. It'd be nice to edit those if possible. We would love to see that because I feel like that's a big pain point that you can't edit a form. Let's say you make a mistake, and I don't know. I'm just making this up. Somebody has a typo on a form label, and everybody just rushed it out the door. We thought it was great. And then you have a typo. Oh, no. I have like 50 fields on my form in this 5 pages. 5 pages of like 10 fields. Now I have to duplicate the whole thing. And anyways, it'd be nice to see the ability to edit forms once they're active. Also, we did see the labeling system where you can label things and group them together. But there's no way to archive a form you don't want to use anymore. Just put it somewhere else. Maybe you can recall it later and put it out to use later on. There's no way to do that now. Also, confirmation messages don't hide the form. It'd be nice to hide the form to show the confirmation message or even the error message or something. Because right now, let's say you have a really big form, it's going to be at the bottom of the page. It just seems like the whole form should just hide once your form submitted successfully or maybe even on error. And you can't migrate your forms across different environments. That'd be a nice thing to have because you have to rebuild your forms on every environment, which some people might not like that. Anyways, just saying it'd be nice to have that in the future. Also,
I'm also not Chuck Norris, right? I can't just do stuff in production and expect to work straight off the bat.
Exactly. Some people, with experience from some people were doing that. But for most, places I've seen, they were building it in a staging environment first and packaging it up and installing it into prod so that you don't make a mistake and mess things up. Anyways, that'd be nice to have for the future. Also, building a form using an API, maybe like call an endpoint to create a whole form. That might help out with some more automation and things like that. And then some kind of recipes in Sitecore Connect that just work with webhooks. That would be nice to have that. Maybe this is a nice segue to enhance Sitecore Connect to offer that ability. And then last but not least, AI generated forms. Now, this almost sounds like science fiction sort of stuff, but it is coming. AI is starting to change a lot of what we do and a lot of things that we use. Maybe AI could recommend form fields based off of what you already had. Yeah.
All right. So we'll take the floor for any questions that might have come in. You're on mute, Akshay, but I can see the question.
Yeah, sorry, I'll read it. So Yeah, is it? It says, is it really standalone? Would I be able to use it within Sitecore XP first and migrate my solution to XM Cloud later if I wouldn't do it in front end?
Yeah, so it is standalone, as in like when we were creating the form, we're not going and creating items in Sitecore like we used to with Sitecore experience forms, right? They would create that tree of the form sections and the fields and field options and things like that. So it is completely standalone from that perspective. Like I said, we don't have a way of, at this moment in time, we don't have a way of embedding it in non-Sitecore pages applications. But I expect if we dug in, we'd find an embed code that we could take and then use that on Sitecore XP XM solutions. And if it's not there already, I think it will come in much like a similar way to, say, a HubSpot form or a Marketo form.
And then the second part of the question is, does it expose forms layout as JSON/API that you know of?
Not that I haven't looked into that, and not that I know of at this moment in time. But it's not going to be in the same layout, I expect, as the current headless layout stuff,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't make sense to have that tight integration like that.
All right. So the next one is XM Cloud support forms data store internally, or you can store it in a third-party system using webhook only. I think he's probably asking something similar to what it does in the
only externally, right? Only stores externally. So you can't, like from the forms application, I can't download a list of submissions, for example, because they don't hold any data. It's off to the third-party system, and then you do whatever you want with it. And if you're using an integration platform, that could be store it in OneDrive or a SharePoint form or a Google Docs, and then go and push it into X, Y, and Z, right? But again, just be careful with PI data with that case.
All right. The next one is, what's the migration path for legacy forms?
Yeah. Migration path is an intern, I guess.
We could have a hackathon category on this, but I don't think it's worth wasting time on that.
Yeah.
And then the next one is, is sensitive data encrypted?
Not that I could see. Yeah, it's not encrypted because you need. Yeah, it's not encrypted.
Yeah.
Basically, right? You're. I mean, they obviously you want to use encrypted as connections with HTTPS and things like that. But yeah, it's not encrypted. Before it sends it.
And that is all the questions we have so far, guys. That was a good presentation. I learned something.
So, Mike, what did you think about the overall forms and the new experience compared to previous?
Well, this is fast. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. There's no messing around with CSS fields or things like that. It just seems like it's so quick. You drag things and then it pops. The old form builders, it seemed like it would take a while. There's definitely some refreshing going on in some of those older platforms. And saving was fast. It just seemed like the whole experience was quick to me. It seemed very intuitive. It seemed like what you see is what you get. You drop, like, let's say, the designer column sort of thing onto the form. You saw where things are going to go. That wasn't always the case with the older form builders. I like it. I definitely do like it a lot. And, definitely having the data not live in the same platform also makes me feel better because you don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Because, if people are getting hacked all the time, or companies are getting hacked, people are walking out with databases, you definitely, I think that porting that over to a company that has, a plan for that kind of stuff is best.
Yeah, and guys, we have one more question. How can we make custom field types? Is it possible?
Right now, it's not.
Okay.
Hopefully, it's coming in the future. It's definitely on the roadmap, but at the moment, it's not there.
Yeah, or it might be possible. They just haven't shared the documentation on it yet. So there is user documentation available, but there isn't the developer documentation yet.
Right.
It'll be interesting to see how we tackle that, but yeah, it'd be interesting to see how,
Right.
how that is done. But it's coming because there is that custom field section, right? As you said.
Right.
Yeah, great. So if that's all the questions, we're bang on time as well. It's 1 o'clock, so perfect. Thank you everyone for joining. Hope you enjoyed the session, and obviously feel free to reach out to myself or Mike, or if you need help with any of your Sitecore projects, then feel free to reach out to the Konabos team as well. Speak to everyone soon.